What's up everybody, I'm Scott from Stringjoy Guitar Strings. I'm not sure exactly why, but of late it seemed like I've had a few more people writing in asking about David Gilmour's guitar string gauges than normal. We get people writing in all the time asking about different guitar string gauges from like Tony Iommi to Zakk Wylde to Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all those sorts of famous cats that use some interesting guitar strings. Not as much volume on the David Gilmour side, but I've had a few more folks of late, so maybe there's something in the water, or everyone's listening to the wall with all the weird times that we've got going on. But I thought it'd be fun to kind of quickly go over David Gilmour's custom string gauge and talk about what's different about it, and less why it's great for doing David Gilmour stuff, but why I think it's kind of a cool set of strings and what he kind of sought to accomplish with this set, as far as I know. Now, a couple of disclaimers first. We do not make David Gilmour's guitar strings. I've never met David Gilmour. God, I would love to, but I have not. He has not come a-knockin'. But my friends at GHS do make this as a David Gilmour signature set. You are more than welcome to buy it from them. They make cool strings. I like those guys. And they've been working with David Gilmour for a long, long time. So I picked these up. I'm actually not using their strings on this guitar, though. I have our strings in the same gauges strung up because, you know, I'm a little loyal to my own product. I tend to like it. But these are cool. One thing that's a little odd about them, love you guys, but you know, I gotta mention this. On the back of this set, you'll notice that it lists these gauges as 0.10, 0.12, 0.16, 0.28, 0.38, and 0.48. The issue with that is that that's wrong. A decimal's off there. That would be if you were using a bass 100 for your high E string and a 480 basically for your low E if you were following those decimals. So I'm not sure how they missed that decimal, but I thought I needed to mention it since it's on here. So today we are looking at David Gilmour's Strat set. He does have a different set for Les Paul. I'll read off what the gauges are when I go through these. We're not going to mess with that right now just because I didn't bring them today into the studio, but I think you'll get the gist from here. Basically, the Les Paul gauges are kind of the same idea, just adapted to a slightly shorter scale length. So what are these gauges here? I kind of mentioned them when I was mentioning the decimals, but just to go over it again, it is a 10 on top. Pretty standard there. You know, it's kind of starting with your normal light set, then a 12 and a 16 on the B and the G, so a little bit lighter there than we normally see on a standard light set. And then on the wound strings, he goes 28, 38, 48. So again, kind of a touch heavier there than what you would normally expect with a standard light set. And then I have written down here on the back of this set, for Les Paul, he does 10.5, 13, 17, 30, 40, 50. So same vibe, just kind of taken up a notch for that shorter Gibson scale length to give him a similar feel, I would imagine, as he has in the Strat set. So what's cool about these? Well, you know, for one, they've got a really flexible B and G, which I think is kind of cool. The high E is standard, it's a 10, but then the 12 and the 16 are almost closer to what you'd see in a set of 9s than what you'd usually see in a set of 10s. So just really, really easy bends, and a lot of kind of stiffness on that high E comparatively. Now, that is an interesting thing because that same concept exists in a lot of popular custom sets from big name guitarists. Stevie Ray Vaughan's set went 13, 15, 19, so basically a 13 on top and then a set of 11s on the B and the G, whereas David Gilmour's here as a 10 on top and then basically a set of 9s on the B and the G. I don't know exactly what that's all about, but I have seen it in a few different of these signature sets from big name players, and I just have to imagine that they really like having a lot of flexibility on the B and the G. It's usually pretty easy to bend the high E, and beyond that, when you get really thin in gauge, you notice it more on the high E than elsewhere. So I'm guessing they just wanted a ton of flexibility on the planes, but wanted that high E to not get lost in the mix the way that it can when you're using a 9 or an 8 or whatever. And then on the bottom end here, we go 28, 38, 48, like I said, so that is classically a set of mediums. You know, ours goes 50 because we like to use balance tension, but that's typical of a set of mediums or 11s. So basically in building this set, what, you know, I kind of can infer that he did is take a light gauge or a 10 gauge set for the high E, basically take a 9 gauge set for the G and the B, and then take an 11 gauge set, you know, so raising the tension up for the wound strings, which I think is pretty cool. It's an unconventional set, but it makes a lot of sense. You've got a lot of flexibility up top, and then some nice like attack and action on the bottom end that doesn't get lost, especially on a Strat. That can get a little bit weird and thin and a little bit overly snappy, which isn't really his vibe. as far as I know it anyway. So I think this is kind of a cool methodology, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. I'm not a David Gilmour player. I'm not even going to try. But I wanted to walk you through the set because I think it's kind of a cool way of looking at it. Basically, you can look at a set of guitar strings and think like, I really like the way my E sounds on a set of 10s. I really like the way my G and B feel on a set of 9s. And I really like that low-end power on a set of 11s. And you can do that, and you should. You can mix those gauges and make a custom set that kind of works just right for you in the same way that David Gilmour did. And I'm not sure if GHS, designed this for him, or if this is what his tech put together or what. I don't really know the backstory there. But I do think it's a cool set, and more than anything, kind of a cool jumping off point for you to build your custom set yourself. What I think is most interesting here is that for a long time you saw a set of 10s would either go 10 to 46 or 10 to 52. So that's a huge jump. You either have a really heavy bottom end or a rather light bottom end. And you see a lot of sets like this. Our Husky 10s are like this too in a lot of ways, where you're using a 28, 38, and 48 or 50 in our case alongside a set of 10s, and I think that's an awesome set. Our Husky 10 to 50s are one of my favorites in our whole line. But it's interesting to me to see that he kind of prefers that same vibe too. A touch more tension on the bottom, not too much, plenty of flexibility on top, and enough of a gauge on that high E to not let it get lost in the mix against everything else that he's doing. So that's kind of my general walkthrough. Again, if you want this exact set, you're welcome to grab them from GHS. They have his face on the box, so that's neat. We also can sell the same gauges as a part of our custom set builder. What I would encourage you even more to do than to just decide that you're gonna try to be David Gilmour is to think about what custom set you should want. What plays well, what you've liked out of different sets that you've experienced, and how you kind of put that together into building a set that's going to enable you to sound just like you, in the same way as David Gilmour built a set that helps him sound just like David Gilmour. I think it's always a lot cooler to sound just like you than it is to sound like your hero or some big star out there. That's just me maybe, but I think originality is something to really be valued, and strings are a nice way of getting to where your guitar feels even more original and plays more the way you want it. So if you do want to try a custom set of strings, at stringjoy.com we offer our strings and custom sets at no extra charge. We're also happy to help you kind of dial in a set of strings if you reach out to us at support@stringjoy.com, or check out our tension calculator at tension.stringjoy.com. Those are both kind of resources that we can use to help you dial in a set of strings that's going to work perfectly for you. I hope you'll take us up on it, and if not, maybe just get thinking about how you can customize your strings, or how you might want to one day in the future to build a set that's going to play perfect and sound great for you.